No franchise is invincible. Sometimes a game will come out in its series that is well loved by millions of people, but the game will be so poorly received that it destroys any chance of the franchise ever making a comeback. Welcome everybody to Trending10, Nemo here, and today we're going to be counting down 10 awful games that killed their franchise. Before we get started with this video, guys, do us a favor and turn your post notifications on. It's super easy. All you have to do is click the bell, check the box, and you'll have every single Trending10 video at your fingertips as soon as they go live. Now at the number 10 spot, we have Dino Crisis 3. Now many of you may not remember this series, but Dino Crisis was an action survival horror series very reminiscent of the original Resident Evil games, largely due to the fact that they were developed by the same team. The franchise was like a fun blend of Jurassic Park and Resident Evil, making you feel like a boss when you blast through various dinos, but also making you fear your life when ammo is scarce and you know that you're being hunted. Dino Crisis 3 was released in 2003 and made countless mistakes that ended up sentencing the series to death. First of all, Dino Crisis 3 took place in the future and had you in a spaceship with dinosaur-like creatures on it. Plus, it took away all of the horror aspects of the previous games and went for all-out action. Dinos in space didn't sit too well with fans and critics alike, and that pretty much made the game a failure, causing Capcom to walk away from the franchise, and we haven't gotten a new game in over 14 years. Hopefully we'll get a remaster of the original games, but the chances are pretty slim. Now at the number 9 spot, we have Dead Space 3. While this game wasn't awful by any stretch of the imagination, it definitely angered fans of the series, and we are yet to see another installment, and we likely never will, especially after the recent closure of Visceral Games by EA. Dead Space 3 was released in 2013, and again you had to play as Isaac Clarke, but this time you had the option of co-op with a buddy who played as John Carver. Dead Space 3 was a beautiful game and the gameplay was polished, but it completely walked away from all of the qualities that made Dead Space so loved by gamers. The game was not scary at all and focused far too much on action, and the story was poorly written. Plus, Dead Space 3 had a heavy emphasis on microtransactions clearly shoved into the game by EA, who had become more and more involved with the creative process. Visceral Games was shut down in 2017, effectively killing all chances of us ever getting a Dead Space 4, although the chances of that game ever being made were slim to begin with. Number 8, we have Medal of Honor Warfighter. After 2010's reboot of Medal of Honor series got mixed reviews, EA knew they had to step up their game if they wanted the series to stay relevant against another franchise like Call of Duty or Battlefield. Medal of Honor Warfighter was released in 2012 after a rushed development that clearly showed in the finished product. Warfighter featured a lackluster campaign and boring multiplayer, all of which sported poor textures, bland gameplay, terrible AI, and countless bugs and glitches that made the game completely unplayable at times. If you ever wonder why we haven't seen another Medal of Honor game since 2012, you have Warfighter to thank for that one. Now at number 7, we have Bomberman Act Zero. Now when you think of Bomberman, chances are you don't think of a post-apocalyptic world with gritty tone that has a T for teen rating. Apparently someone over at Konami clearly thought that the Bomberman brand needed a makeover, although I think we can all agree that that wasn't the case, and ordered that the new game be dark and realistic as opposed to the lighthearted, family-friendly game like the previous in the franchise. This could have worked if the game was really good, but as I'm sure you guys are all aware, Bomberman Act Zero was terrible. It featured long loading times, terrible hit detection, which I will say is pretty important for a Bomberman game, and no save feature. I mean, like, come on guys, this is Bomberman we're talking about. Bomberman Act Zero effectively destroyed the Bomberman franchise until 2017 when Super Bomberman R was released for the Nintendo Switch, although that was also very poorly received, cementing the Bomberman name as a dead franchise. Number 6, we have 007 Legends. James Bond games have always been incredibly hit or miss. GoldenEye is one of the greatest games of all time, and there have been some other fun shooters like Quantum of Solace and Agent Under Fire, but there's not many in between. Activision was looking to bring Bond into the spotlight of gaming just like the good old days with the release of 007 Legends, which would feature a campaign that spanned multiple 007 movies and had a huge multiplayer that was supposed to be the next big thing, competing with Call of Duty and other fast-paced FPS games. Unfortunately, none of that actually happened, and 007 Legends is considered to be one of the worst FPS games ever made thanks to its lackluster mission design, numerous bugs, and bland multiplayer. Following the awful reception of the game, all of Activision's Bond games were removed from Steam without warning, and the company confirmed that they had abandoned the 007 license, suggesting that it had been revoked, and we are yet to see another 007 game since Legends. Now, number 5, we have Fear 3 and Fear Online. Now, the first Fear game is easily one of the best horror FPS games ever made. It blended military shooter action with a tense, claustrophobic environment filled with scares and uneasiness. However, the series kind of fell off after that game. Fear 2 was okay and it had some decent sections, but it was nothing compared to the first. Fear 3 looked to put the series back on the map and get the franchise reputation back to how it was with the first game, but it failed so miserably that there hasn't been a real game since its release. Now, this game was released in 2010. Fear 3 was met with pretty meh reviews due to its lackluster scares and subpar action, making it feel generic and uninteresting. In a last-ditch attempt to keep the series relevant, Warner Bros. Ordered a new kind of game in the franchise titled Fear Online, which was a free-to-play multiplayer FPS released in 2013. The game was terrible, featured buggy gameplay, no anti-cheat at all, bugs galore, and also not a single thing that made it feel like Fear. Fear Online servers were shut down just 2 years after the launch, and we haven't seen a new game in the series in 4 years. Number 4, we have Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Now, Banjo Kazooie is one of the most beloved franchises of all time, which is very impressive considering there have only been 3 games. The first 2 games were released for the Nintendo 64 and were critically acclaimed for their graphics, gameplay, lovable character, great humor and writing, and flawless soundtrack. There was supposed to be a third game, but development was canceled after Microsoft acquired Rareware in its entirety and ordered production on the game to stop. Instead, Microsoft ordered a spin-off to be made, which eventually became Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. The game launched to a decent critical reception, but awful fan reception, as the new game had nothing to do with Banjo-Kazooie, and it was the exact opposite of the game we had all been waiting for. Now, we're yet to see another Banjo game after Nuts and Bolts was so hated by the fans, and given Rareware's current state as a Microsoft developer, I doubt we're ever going to see one, at least anytime soon. Now, number 3, we have Tarak 2008. The Tarak series first started in 1997 and ran for years and years as a standout franchise, blending fun FPS combat with elements of science fiction, futuristic weaponry, and dinosaur hunting. After Turok Evolution was released in 2002 to mixed reviews and mediocre sales, the franchise needed a makeover in order to continue living on. The reboot, simply titled Turok, was released in 2008 and was developed by Propaganda Games and published by Disney Interactive. Much like Turok Evolution, the reboot was stuck with frame rate issues, bad graphics, tons of glitches, mediocre gameplay, bad level design, and much more. While it was a financial success and there was a sequel ordered, it was later shut down and we are yet to get a new Turok game. Number 2, we have Red Faction Armageddon. Now, Red Faction is a shooter franchise that has had a rough history. The first game was pretty forgettable, while Red Faction 2 was an improvement, but still not as good as it could have been. The third game, Red Faction Guerrilla, managed to capture more fans and better sales, although it still needed a few more tweaks in order to be massive success that THQ wanted it to be from the start. Red Faction Armageddon looked to be that correction, however, none of that worked out and the series since had died completely. The game was just mediocre in every way, and after multiple mediocre games, people kind of gave up on the series, and Armageddon was a critical failure, causing THQ to lose approximately $38.4 million in one fiscal year. THQ announced that they were walking away from the franchise, and THQ went bankrupt a few years later. Now, last but not least, we have Duke Nukem Forever. I'm pretty much every single one of you guys kind of expected this one to be coming. This game was locked in development hell for 15 years and was finally released buggy, unfinished, unfunny, and completely devoid of everything that made the previous Duke Nukem games so great. The Duke Nukem franchise has always been known for its over-the-top violence, profanity, and parodies of movies and pop culture, and while Duke Nukem Forever did have those 3 things, it was done in a way that was so poor and unfunny that it just made the game seem out of touch and outdated. And the awful graphics and physics definitely didn't help their case either. We are yet to see another Duke Nukem game since the release of Forever, and after that game went down in history as one of the worst made, I don't think we'll ever see a series recovery. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps it up with this video. Let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. Do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn your post notifications on, and also check out our sponsors in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and until next time, this has been Nemo from Trending10, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.